Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. As always, I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at SheCanCode, and today we're calling all graduates. You've put away the cap and gown and university seems like a distant memory. So now what? Today we're getting the lowdown from Sam Vickerman, Retail Practice Director at Grayce, on how to get a graduate job in tech. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Lovely to have been invited along to talk about getting more women into tech, which is a massive passion of mine. So I'll give you a little intro to who Grayce is and also my background.
Wonderful.
Okay, so Grayce, as you mentioned, Practice Director for Retail, also the insurance practice here at Grayce, but I also head up our Tech Plus offering. So what Grayce does is basically focus on emerging talent into the industry, and that could be in anything from change, data and tech roles. So my specific passion, and hence I'm here today, is the tech side of it. And that comes from myself really having a background as well. From 25 years ago, I started in the tech industry. For me, it's getting people to recognize that you don't have to be a techie to work in tech. And I think, you know, it's a phrase that I hear many, many times from women in the industry, be that kind of ex-colleagues of mine or now clients. But you know, I'm working technology, but I'm not a techie, and it's almost like you're apologizing for it, and there's absolutely no apology.
I hear that apology a lot.
And I myself do, right? So I started out on our IT help desk, did a little bit of code. Gosh, back in the day it was COBOL, which was a long time ago. And yeah, needless to say, I wouldn't have a clue where to start now. So for me, this is very much about, you know, I found the service desk a brilliant way to get into the industry, but over the years, what we found is those sorts of roles quite often are outsourced, or they're sent off to, you know, what we were finding in, certainly when we first looked at the tech side, a lot was outsourced to India, to other places, that those starting roles that you got from things like the service desk or a bit of application management and support weren't as often available as they previously had been. So what we do here at Grayce is recruit graduates, and you might have 6 months, 12 months experience. You might not have a technical degree, but you've been doing a degree. You might have done it, you know, we've got a brilliant girl with us that's done a degree in English, but went off to do a coding course and joined us to be in tech, and absolutely loves it. And we offer a 2 to 3 year development program. So it's a learning and development pathway, but you also go out on assignment with clients. So we work with some really big kind of FTSE 100 clients that need that support and need those skill capability builds, and we work with them to do that. So we focus predominantly within tech on software development, but also information cybersecurity.
So if you're a graduate then, and somebody has revealed, you know, they've busted that myth and they've said to you, you know what, you don't have to be technical to work in tech. Yeah. Why would that graduate be, you know, why would they consider a career in the tech industry, do you think?
So for me, and you know, the feedback we get from our grads all the time, there is so many different opportunity areas within tech. So it's forever changing. You know, the one great thing about being in tech is the innovation that comes with it. There's different platforms, different solutions regularly. I think tech changes pretty much. You're learning something new every 2.5 years. The whole thing changes around. So it's interesting. I think you get to work with business areas. I mean, every single business cannot function now without tech. So where it used to be seen as a bit of a cost center and a kind of cost to a company, it's now seen as integral. So I think wherever you go in the industry now, you will be touching technology anyway. Even if you went down a change or a data pathway, you would still be touching technology, you know, whether that is the transforming of the digital kind of areas of that, or whether it's, you know, within retail, it's a new software system that they've put to track the warehouses. There is always technology within it. So I think it's just such an interesting area to get into. It's changing all the time. There are so many different roles. As mentioned before, you don't have to be a techie. If you want to be a techie, there's loads of techie roles out there right now. It's brilliant. And, you know, if you get into code, there's opportunity now where there wasn't before. I think through COVID really as well, people are digitizing a lot more. So there's a lot more opportunity, not just with the big companies now, but smaller startups, Companies that you wouldn't see as a tech company necessarily, they all need tech. And so I think there's just so much choice out there now.
Yes, and even when you hear, at the minute, there are so many stories in the news at the minute about, the tech industry that are bigger companies that are struggling and are making redundancies. However, those skills, they're always needed. And as you mentioned, tech is so fast paced. If you have the right skills, you're always going to be snapped up by another company.
Yeah.
So it's always just a really good career path to get into.
Absolutely is. And I think there's, you can choose, I say this to, I've got children now that's starting out their careers. It doesn't mean to say you have to stick to one element as well. So I started off on the service desk, but I quickly moved into kind of service management and then planning and governance of it. So that led to my career in a completely different trajectory than maybe I thought I was going to have in the first place. Other people that I worked with on the service desk kind of went on to be software developers, or actually physically fixing hardware, or became data analysts. So it's a foot in the door, I think, when you get into tech, whether you start on the service desk or start as a software developer, you can go in any direction. You don't have to go and be a leader, you can specialize. There is so much choice for you. And I think that's what's exciting about working in the industry as well. And you get an opportunity to innovate, you get an opportunity to work with so many different types of people in different areas.
Yeah. And in terms of qualifications, because you don't need to have a technical degree to be considered for a career in tech. I think that turns a lot of people off though, doesn't it? You think, well, if I didn't take that at university, I kind of missed the boat on going into technology. But you already mentioned somebody at the start there who has an English degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what you find, so we get computer science grads coming to us. Obviously, that's kind of the next, the obvious, I suppose, degree that people do. But what we actually find is there are many people with, for example, geography grads actually make brilliant techies and data analysts, because they're actually sifting through so much data and they find kind of ways and means to do that. Same with maths grads. STEM is obviously the kind of route that most people think they have to go in. You really don't now. There are so many opportunities, so many stuff online that you can do. There are coding clubs you can join. There are companies that will give you kind of, you can do a 12-week boot camp. So I think you can test your aptitude. You can actually go online now and see, would a software development kind of pathway work for me, or would technical roles work? But actually, if you do one of these courses, it's free, or do a little kind of, little course on the internet, and it gives you an idea of whether that's something you're really interested in. But what we do here at Grayce is really look at the skill set, and it's not about what degree background you've got. It's actually, have you got the aptitude, the personality, the kind of problem solving skills, the logical thinking that would enable you to be really successful in that career. And communication in any role is key. And that counts just as much in kind of technical roles, in IT roles. It's not necessarily about how great a coder you are, but it's about, can you understand, can you problem solve, can you communicate to other teams? And I think that's probably the most important thing we look for, is really that attitude.
Yeah, and I think as well, when you're at university, you don't always know what you want to do. I mean, it's quite a time of discovery, isn't it? I mean, I knew what I wanted to do, but I think I was probably the only person on my course who kind of knew what they wanted to be as a child and went on to study that. But everybody else is kind of figuring out whether or not they even enjoy the course that they were taking. And a lot of people, once they've graduated, I remember some of the students, some of my friends around me saying, well, actually, I don't know what to do now, or now I might have to go off and study something else to teach in that area, or, whatever it may be. But, unless you're lucky enough to be at a careers fair and somebody points out, actually, technology, we're here, open arms. You don't have to have had a computer science degree. I think it's a lot of graduates really have not discovered what route they'd like to go down as yet. And that leads me on to my next question, though, about CVs and how to stand out to potential employers, because I think that's the other thing. When you graduate, it's a baptism of fire when you share your CV and you realise you're really bad at putting together a CV.
And
You
I
go
don't think
in
that
this
changes
sea of
with
other
me.
graduates and you're completely invisible and just so
Yeah.
overlooked.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think that changes through your career, to be honest. I think everybody, what you're saying then about being at university and not sure what you want to do. I think I spent my whole career kind of saying, I really don't know what I'm going to do next. And things happen, don't they? I think that the key for me with your CV and when you're applying for jobs is to find, it's to be yourself, to be honest. A lot of people try to be somebody else on a CV. Well, do you know what? You're either going to get found out very quickly, or you're going to be in a role where you're actually not happy because you're not being yourself and being true to yourself.
Yes.
So for me, I think I would, before you even start on your CV, I would ask people what they actually think. What are your strengths? What are you really good at? And what do people see you as being? And that, if you're trying to get into a technical role, of course, you want your technical skills to be highlighted in there. Quite often transferable skills are just as key. So as I mentioned before, when we're looking for people, we're looking for the attitude, we're looking for that personality trait, around being supportive, being human, caring, being able to communicate to others. Those are really, really stand out, to be honest, in tech roles and any role, right? That's it.
Yeah.
So it's being clear, what are your transferable skills? When you go for a tech role, logical thinking, problem solving, what examples have you got? You might not have done a tech role to give a tech example, but you can give a problem solving example. And I think for me, it's, if you are technical, have you got a portfolio like GitHub, making sure there's a link to that people can actually see and go and see your work. So be proud of the stuff you have done, where you've been self-teaching, make sure that's on there, because actually somebody's self-teaching themselves. I had a brilliant lad that was working, he was full-time working in a furniture store. And if you'd look at his CV, generally you'd have gone, actually, that's definitely not a techie. But what he then added was he'd been doing some self-training on Udemy. He'd done a YouTube video. So every week he'd go out and do something, showing what he'd learned, showing what he was doing. And we thought, what a brilliant guy. It came across the passion. His CV itself, the experience was working in, I think it was Harvey's or somebody like that, furniture store. But actually, the skills that he'd done by just self-teaching and doing these YouTube videos just blew us away. And he actually went on now, he's a senior test lead now at Boohoo. He's amazing career.
Wow.
And that is just from that continuous self-development and really putting himself out there. It's not easy to do a YouTube video, and there's so many different things like TikTok now that you can go on as well. Don't be afraid to kind of try these things and see.
Yeah, and that mindset of, as you said, continuous learning, that's just something that all developers have. As we said, technology moves so fast and you have to keep up, and it's not just you get your computer science degree in 1999 and you're in and that's it. You have to keep learning.
And that's true. A lot of computer science grads, and we find it, when we're speaking to our clients, sometimes those computer science skills are not actually relevant to the workplace. What is relevant is that continuous kind of, keeping on top of the industry, reading the blogs, watching the YouTube videos, understanding what's happening in the industry makes you much more relevant than, as you say, a degree that you might have got 20 years ago in computer science.
Yeah. And the thing is as well nowadays, so I remember when I graduated, I remember recruiters saying to me, don't show your personality on your CV. Don't make, a video, or don't even include your picture. But actually nowadays, a potential employer is going to Google you anyway. Yeah. So is it better to add a little video or just add a little link to something that you do on YouTube? Because they want to see you anyway, and they're going to Google you. So.
Yeah. And I do think things have changed from that. It used to be very black and white, didn't it? It had to be formal. It had to be. I think if you're in tech now, the tech industry is so creative. And I think, having a little bit of your personality there does matter. People want to know who you are. I think the world of work's changed quite a lot. I know certainly, I looked at doing a CV a few years ago and I thought, crikey, this is completely different to like the old, really structured way of doing it. And we see some brilliant CVs, for people that are applying to us, some real standouts where they have put the link to the GitHub or the YouTube or, the TikTok that they've been doing. And I think it's not always appropriate if you're going for, I suppose, director of tech role right at the top. Maybe you wouldn't want to do that at that point. But
things you wouldn't share.
for people starting out, I mean, you're absolutely right. People will Google anyway, right? LinkedIn now is really open for everybody, but actually YouTube, TikTok, a lot on, you only need to Google somebody's name, you can see what they've done. And it's a real, one way it can work really badly if you've not locked your social media down.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
you just graduated and those photos are still there.
Exactly, yeah. Note on the side, you've got to lock that down. Be careful.
I mean, as you mentioned, though, things have really changed, and lots of people start, their own YouTube channels, and it's so much easier now to show your personality. So, what are your thoughts on cover letters then? Are they still needed? Do we still sit down and write that cover letter?
Yeah, do you know what? And it's interesting because there are mixed views on it. So I think, again, a cover letter now, it's still relevant to kind of, for me, what a cover letter can do is express why you want to work for that particular company. So for me, it's about doing the research on what role you're applying to and being able to use that cover letter to say it. But I don't think it needs to be War and Peace. And I think it can be quite simple. I think the old days of spending hours and hours trying to tailor your cover letter to a particular role isn't as relevant now, because as you say, it literally is just to get you in front of that employer to say, I'm interested in this role. And, I think we see beyond, certainly we do here at Grayce, see beyond the cover letter. You're looking more at the CV, you're looking at that person as they're coming through, that initial phone call with them or the initial video interview. It's not about War and Peace on your cover letter at the start. It can be a great way of actually saying, right, okay, you can get something maybe quirky to catch the eye, depending on the role that you're going for and depending on your own personality. Some people aren't quirky, right? Some people want to be just straight down the line, and that's easy to do as well. It's be yourself is really important.
And I suppose a little bit more than to, whoever it may concern, my CV is attached, yours faithfully. But, maybe sing more about your skills in your CV. And as you mentioned, when you get through to the first interview, interview tips. Now, I mean, we hear a real range of things that you should and shouldn't do in an interview. But what about your tips? Do technical interviews differ in any way, or have you not found that?
We, like I mentioned before, we have 3 different programs. So we've got change, data, and tech, and to some extent they are all very similar, right? It's about talking about who you are, so tell us about yourself. What are your likes, what are your dislikes, what do you understand about business? It's, what are good businesses and why do they succeed? What are challenge, why particular businesses not worked out, and it gets them to think about the industry as a whole. And I think from technical interview wise, the only difference for us is really trying to drill into those qualities that we've mentioned before, the problem solving, the analytical nature, and we may get them to do, to present on a piece of code they've done, or a piece of, they might have developed an app, or, it might even be just an understanding of somebody else's work, what they understand from it. So show us, something, it might be a cyber attack that's happened as well. Why did that happen? What could they have done differently? So for us, it's the biggest part of it is actually trying to get their personality and their passion. So we want to know why they want a career in tech, not necessarily have they done all of these things, but actually what do they understand about it? What do they like about it? If that passion shines through and that personality, that's the bit that's really important. Obviously, we all like the STAR technique and, the demonstrable transferable skills, but ultimately, if somebody's got that passion and personality, that really, we want to see that shining through. Why do you want that career in tech? What is it about tech that interests you? What do you understand about the tech industry? And it's those kind of questions that I think bring out the best in people.
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it, as a graduate, because you don't always have the experience in the area that you would like to go in, or you've had very, small work experience placements, and actually when you write them down, you kind of look and you think, oh, how am I supposed to show that I really want to go into an area without that experience? It's incredibly difficult. As you say, it's just, I think it takes practice, because if I look back now on the first few interviews I went for when I first graduated, I mean, it takes practice, just sitting in front of a potential employer and just learning to chat even through the interview, because you're so nervous as well. And you think, if you just relax and chat. And I remember I must have been on about 5 or 6, and I eventually accepted a cup of tea, because at first I was like, no, I don't want any drinks. You know, I'm just here to do the formalities of this job interview. But I just thought, just relax, and then you become more yourself. And that's what they want to see. But it took a very long time to figure that out.
And you know what, we see a real mix of people, and the ones that are most successful are the ones that actually remember to smile. And I always say that, you know, when our analysts are going meeting clients for the first time, you know, when they're kind of going on that first assignment, try and breathe and smile, because quite often you forget to breathe, you're that nervous. You're trying to remember everything you want to say and you forget to smile, but actually it's about building rapport with the interviewer. So, you know, of course, there'll be an opportunity for you to talk about your tech skills or talk about your tech understanding. You know, as you said, you've not got much experience. It's how do you demonstrate that passion? And so I think build that rapport, and people will warm to you, and they'll get that. It's so much easier to get something out of somebody if you've got that warm relationship and rapport, isn't it?
And a genuine smile as well, not like a scary one, like an afterthought. Make sure it's genuine. We mentioned a little bit there about, you know, communication, for instance. What soft skills would you say employers are looking for the most?
So for us, it is generally, and I think most employers now, when I think about our clients as well, when they're looking at people, it is communication skills and the ability to, you know, I think we've seen it so many times. Can you work on a team? Can you be an individual? All of that kind of stuff. But actually it is demonstrating that you can mix with people, that you are, you know, you've got a personality. You can actually go and get up off the desk, and, you know, if you don't understand that particular ticket, you can pick up the phone or walk to somebody and say, actually, you've raised this ticket. What does it actually mean? You know, or how can I help you, and better understand that? The ability to question, I suppose, and we always say be curious, right? The most curious people are, you know, the ones that will succeed. They're not afraid to ask a question back. They're not afraid to kind of make sure that they fully understand it. And I think when people do that, it also shows a bit of vulnerability, right? Don't be a know-it-all, because nobody knows it all. Nobody does. So it's that continued learning. Be curious, communicate, be warm, you know, get your own personality out there, and hopefully it's a good personality. It might be trouble.
Being curious though is so important. I think that really shows in your interview as well. You know, if you've done your research into the company, you've got tailored questions to ask, and they're not just the basic questions that you would ask in a job interview. I think that really shines if somebody's, you know, been really, I don't mean digging into a company to see, you know, what kind of dirt they can get onto the get from that and reveal it in the interview. You know, just but really, you know, tailoring their answers and why they're there.
Yeah, and I think, you know, those questions at the end of an interview where you say, have you got any questions for me? My heart sinks a little bit when they say, no, you've answered it all, because I think we couldn't possibly, there'll be something there. I also say, you know, think about what you've learned about the company. There must be something you're curious to know a little bit more about. And it gives you the opportunity to show you've looked into the company as well when you're asking that question. So it might be, actually, I've seen on your website, you've had this initiative. You know, will there be an opportunity to do more, or have, you know, how did that land, or showing that you've actually looked into that company and you really are interested. And it might only be a little question, but to have that question at the end shows that you do care and you want that job.
Yeah, because all employers know, as a graduate, you are sending out hundreds of applications.
Yeah.
You need to at least show that you've taken a moment to look up, just even the homepage on their website,
Yeah.
and you will stand out.
Honestly, I love it when, you interview somebody and they can just relay either something they've seen themselves on YouTube about the company, or, oh, I've spoken to such and such, when you've reached out to somebody in the company as well and asked them a question. And I love that. It just, it's not a huge amount of overhead for you when you're going for a job to just do a little research on the company that you're going for. And that really does hit it with, with the interviewer. I think they suddenly think, oh, this person really does want to work here.
Yeah, and reaching out to somebody in the company, that's a great idea for graduates. Should also graduates be looking at volunteering internships? We mentioned a little bit about how hard it is when you don't have the experience. Is that something that graduates should be actively looking to do, whilst even still at university?
I think so. I really do think so. I think getting that if you can't land an internship, which by the way are really, really hard at the moment through COVID, I think what we've found over the last couple of years is where people would get that 6-month or 12-month experience from an internship, they've not been happening in the same way. The thing that then gives the grads the edge is where they've actually gone and done some voluntary work, or they may actually, supporting a charity. So charities haven't got a huge amount of money to be developing websites or doing, even creating a form. We've had our grads that have gone into a charity and, doing something simple as an Excel form and putting a macro on it for somebody. Actually, that makes the world of difference to that particular charity. Gives you something to put on your CV, and there's a real feel good on both sides then. And I think there are things like that. You can volunteer, might be going into a local school, seeing if you can teach some of the younger kids some code. So, we know now at primary school, people are looking at coding at a very simple level, but can you do something to help a school nearby? Can you help a charity? Or even, it might be you're working in a local restaurant, but can you do something about the booking system there? There are all sorts of things that if you put your mind to it, there are ways that you could get that experience.
Yeah, and the confidence that you get from that. And I think also just realizing that, sometimes what you learn at university doesn't always transfer very well into the world of work. So volunteering is a great way to figure that out, to think, how do I actually apply what I learned to the working world before I get to my first job? And I think, that was quite frightening.
And it's great going back to kind of the CV, to be able to put that on your CV and to show that you've done something like that. It does make a difference, and it will give you that edge against other people. Somebody might have a first-class degree, that doesn't make them any better than somebody with a 2-2 that's then gone and volunteered and actually can demonstrate some technical capability that they've done. And it doesn't have to be huge, it can be something simple.
Yeah. And in terms of job hunting, obviously there are lots of articles and podcasts and advice about what you should do while you're job hunting. What should you not be doing whilst you're job hunting?
That's an interesting question to say. I mean, first of all, don't give up. That's one thing that you shouldn't have a defeatist attitude. But I think what not to do, don't be unprepared. Make sure that you do actually spend time researching, reaching out to people. So don't be unprepared. Don't give up. Don't forget your soft skills. That's just as important as your hard skills. And don't take rejection personally, because quite often, there are a lot of people all going for the same roles. So if you don't get it, it's just not meant to be at that particular one. Don't ever take it personally. So for me, don't stop researching, don't stop being curious, and please don't take rejection personally. I mean, that's my don'ts for it, I think.
Yeah, which is quite hard when you're young and you start looking. Obviously, I mean, you mentioned their rejection. How do you stay positive during a job hunt? You have, it sounds dreadful, you haven't got the experience and it's going to take you some time. What can you do to keep going?
Again, I think it comes back to that, trying to think of other things you can be doing as well. So don't just focus on, right, I must get this job, if needs be, get a part-time job doing something completely different to give your mind a break. And actually, you will always get transferable skills in whatever role you do. Some of our brilliant grads have, they've got skills from working at McDonald's, because it's fast-paced, it's quick, you're dealing with clients all the time, every day you've got a different customer, a different challenge. you're doing teamwork. There's something that you can do every time that will be transferable, that will get you to that path. So, you know, don't, back to the kind of don'ts, I suppose, while you're interviewing, don't stop learning. Don't stop trying to kind of do other things. Distract your mind. If you need to, take a week out of the job search and just go and do something for you that fuels a different passion, because it is draining. And there is a lot of, you know, if you're getting up every day and you're thinking, right, which one am I going to apply for? You're going to lose that passion. You're going to lose the reason. And, you know, the thing that you want to do and where you want to get to actually becomes further and further away because you become almost jaded.
Yeah.
So for me, keep learning, attend networking events, you know, go and do something that you'll be learning while you're there, but you're also meeting other people and getting ideas, you know, be part of a forum online, you know, talk to people. Don't be, the one thing to not be is on your own and thinking it's all down to you to get this job and that's the be all and end all of the world, because it really isn't. You know, go and do some volunteering, go and do a tech fest. You know, there's all sorts of tech festivals take place across the country. Go and have a visit, go around the stalls, get the freebies. We always love doing that when we have the stalls ourselves, you know, go around and get the free earphones and everything else.
That's it, and the jelly beans.
Yeah.
And I must say, as a student who worked at McDonald's, I absolutely loved it, and it was incredibly hard. And you're absolutely right. Just taking yourself away from that thought of I must graduate, must get a job, it must be in this area. Even something like at McDonald's, it's incredibly hard to work at McDonald's, I must say. But just talking to people every day, I mean, you talk to hundreds of people that come through. A lot of them do complain at you, but even getting used to that, you know, dealing with the public shouting at you.
Exactly. Honestly, I think whatever you do, you know, and it may be, you know, whether it's McDonald's you know, working in a restaurant, actually doing a little YouTube channel yourself, right, to keep yourself interested. You know, I couldn't understand how my son could sit in front of a computer playing his Xbox and then watch a YouTube video of somebody else playing their Xbox. I just, it never, it kind of didn't stick with me. It's such a thing now that actually that was his way of just switching off and watching somebody else do it for a little bit and talk through. And you know, there are so many opportunities, things to do while you're actually on that job search. And you know, take yourself out for a walk sometimes. You know, just go and visit somewhere new and do some research on companies where, you know, you might actually not think you're interested in a particular one, but start dig a little deeper and you'll see where the tech is. Almost set yourself a little task of saying, okay, right, I'll pick a company. Right, what sort of tech roles do I think that company might have in the future or might need or might do? And you realise it's so integral to every organisation. So no matter where you end up going and what job you start, you know, like say I started off on the IT help desk, right? But you could start off in, I don't know, a claims department of an insurance company, but you're in and you can start working your way through then. You start meeting people in those organisations. So don't think, gosh, it's got to be a tech role from the start. It could be something completely different in that organisation, but every organisation will have technical needs and you can get there. You'll build your way through it if that's really what you want to do.
Yeah, and if you're in the right company as well, I think they're so encouraging of that, those transferable skills. If they notice that you're interested in a career in technology, you can even transition from, as you said, a non-techie role into a techie role once you're in the right company. We are almost out of time, but I have one last question. Do you have any favourite resources for job seekers? Any advice and where you would send people?
Yeah, I certainly do. And people like actually SheCanCode are brilliant for us. I think I recommend, you know, we've talked a lot about the YouTube channels, but I'd recommend joining the coding clubs as well and being part of it. So you've got things like Manchester Digital Run Digital Her, there's Innovate Her, there's Code First Girls, SheCanCode. You know, there are so many different coding clubs, coding organisations. We do a session here at Grayce once a month called the Code Club. And on that kind of code club, it's code bar. It's anybody from different backgrounds, just giving them a taster for coding. So I would say, do your research, have a look, join some of these, go to the Manchester Tech Festival or in London Tech Fest. There are across the country different things taking place. So Google it, research it, see what's going on in your local area. There will always be some sort of event or tech event going on, or coding course. You know, I think most colleges will do it. If you just want to get a taster from it, you can get the taste. I think, you know, again, so many different things out on the internet that you can do, research and Google, and, you know, just keep going. Honestly, keep going and keep trying and have a look. You know, there are so many different things. I'm just thinking now what I've been kind of looked at before. There's different podcasts. There's, you know, IT Career Energizer. There's Learn to Code with me. There's daily tech updates. So I think if you have a look, even, you know, whether it's Twitter or on Google, on Facebook, there'll be different things that you can stay connected to. And that gives you a really good way of staying current, as well as meeting other people in that community.
Yeah. Yeah, that is lovely advice to end it there. Thank you so much, Sam. It's gone so fast, so thank you so much.
I can't believe how quickly it's gone. Thank you.
I know. Thank you for coming along. We'll definitely have you back for another update at some point. Would be lovely. But thank you to everybody as always for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.